It's Erin here. Hope you're having a great day. I just wanted to say that these messages that I'm recording they're pre-recorded. So God had me just start doing this, start posting or start making video content to post at a later date. So therefore I can do like a consecutive run of videos without getting like overwhelmed by I'm just hearing this from God right now, from any attention that I'm getting, and that they're not going to be recorded based on reactions to the prior video or any prior videos. So that's something I just heard right now. So, sometimes I get like an idea of a video before I start recording. And really, if I ask, then I will get, like if I say to myself, okay, what should I record about? And then I'll get the idea. It's not like I'm trying to find something to record about. It'll just pop into my head. So I know that's my intuition. That's God speaking to me. That's how it works for me individually. I don't really know like how it works for everybody else. But just from my knowledge, from my journey, from how this is working for me individually, is that God is speaking to me through my intuition and telling others to use their intuition as a guidance on their path. So I'm not sure if that's God directly talking to each and every individual, or if that's kind of like a GPS guidance system that's internalized within each one of us to know which is the right path and which direction to take. So you can always find that in your intuition. That is your GPS system in life. That's what I was just told. So now we all have a predestined path that we're supposed to achieve to create a better world. There's like a mission that we have on this planet. And when we're created and born into this environment, we need to do our job. And our job has been internalized inside of us. And I've been getting this message today. It's like ants. We have a purpose, and the ant knows from its internal design to know to follow and to do their work. Now, it's different as humans because we don't just follow somebody else. And that's kind of like, I'm getting an itchy ear right now from God that I'm on the right path here and what I'm saying, because I'm getting itchy. So that's confirmation. And I've never thought these thoughts before. They just come through as I'm talking. So that's God. So each individual person, human being, it's different than ants, because ants have their little path and they follow each other. And God wants me to wake people up. And now I'm getting over to my thoughts from my life path that I observed and that I was thinking, that in my experience, being a being a chosen one, being an earth angel, I've been put on this earth to observe and then report back to you guys at a later date, like now, what my perception is of how I feel things can be better and improved. And with God's guidance and help, he's delivering messages to you through me. So the message is that, like, don't follow others. There's certain societal norms that we have to follow and do what we're told and follow, during our childhood. But we can't do anything about that unless those laws are changed. And we can do that if that's an important thing that we need to address as a group, as a whole. Hopefully through this movement, this Earth Healer movement, we can address issues if there's a larger scaled problem. Maybe we can address that as a group, and you guys can help me on that, and I can get guidance from God on how to make that happen, and we can do that together. This is so amazing. I'm so happy, because imagine, like, I'm getting chills right now, and I feel like crying, because I know this is stupid, but how many people have wanted world peace? I mean, isn't that like a united, can we all come together in this world and agree on those things, that we all want world peace? I mean, think about it. Think every single person on this planet wants world peace, correct? I mean, unless you have a super evil, corrupted spirit, demon, devil spirit, I'm pretty sure like each and every one of us want world peace, even if you are a devil, because you don't want to be bombed out of your sleep when you're in your bedroom. And like, I'm just like thinking of people in Ukraine right now, and other times that's happened, and it's just horrible. I mean, we've gotten so accustomed to getting numb to those tragedies that happen. And God wants us to really not be numb anymore. Like, it's supposed to be a wake-up call. And maybe, for a large group of people, there is a wake-up call because they're very close to it. So if they have family and friends or neighbors, or they lived there at one time, or they visited there one time, or, oh my God, I'm just getting like chills all over my body. So the other part of the world that is detached from those tragedies, not just the Ukraine war type situation that's happening, but it's other tragedies as well. Like, we're detaching ourselves from all of these horrible, horrific things that happen on a daily basis, whether it's murder, rape, just any kind of violence or wrongdoing. We've become numb and immune to taking it to heart and feeling emotions about it, because it's happening so often that, as an earth angel myself, I don't like any violence, corruption, chaos. I like to have peace and harmony and balance in my life, and happiness. And that's what we need to do. We need to keep that happiness in our lives in order to progress on our correct path with God. We need to have an open, loving heart. So in order to do that, we block out chaos and negativity and bad things. Like if there's a car accident, like when I was really little, there was a car accident. I probably was 8 years old, and I saw a little boy that was like younger than I was, like 6 years old, 5 years old. And this is really sad, you guys. I've never seen anything like this, and I do shield myself from accidents because of this. Is I saw a little boy sprawled out on the ground, like, and his eyes were closed, and it was like he was passed on. Like a little boy died. And as a child, I didn't see any blood that I recall, but he was there and nobody was around him. He was just by himself laying on the ground. And as a kid, I just looked out the car window as my mom was driving by, and I saw this horrific scene. And it stayed with me my entire life. And I'm being told that now that the world is more populated, that our population as a planet has been increasing over time, that's why we need like a wake-up call, because we're in more populated areas, and we're seeing more tragedies, and we need to shield our children from those horrific images that can just stay in their minds and alter like their state of mind. So sometimes it's God's will to put that into a child's mind for their purpose, like for me, to be wary that like tragedy can happen, it can strike at any time, and it doesn't matter how old you are in life, or it doesn't matter, nothing matters, but you know, your time on this earth is super precious, and you have to appreciate every moment. And that, you know, things can just happen in just the blink of an eye or a snap of a finger. So from that point on, I think there was some more accidents that I had witnessed, or, you know, things that, and I told myself, like, I don't want to put those images in my head. Something told me, maybe God told me at that time. I wasn't aware of these things that I'm expressing about your intuition and all of that. So something told me, my intuition told me, not to put bad images into my psyche, into my brain, because it's not healthy for me. So me personally, I needed to shield myself from negative thoughts, because I needed to keep a pure, innocent heart, because that was my mission and purpose. I needed that for myself, and I was told that. So throughout life, I didn't look over at accidents. I just, you know, like I wasn't like a rubbernecker, that's what they call it. when I was younger, or a looky-loo, whatever. Like, I didn't look at tragic things. Like, I didn't have a curious mind for that. Like, I knew that already. Like, I didn't need to see it. I was already spooked, you know, from a very young age. So I didn't need that. I didn't need even, I'm not a type of person, like, let's say somebody's like an ambulance worker or something like that. Like, that's their calling in life, is to help people, like a fireman or policeman or whatever. That's their calling in life. Then they would want to look, and they are curious, and they do want to get out of the car and go help or whatever. That's their life path. But for me, I just knew that my family, my generations, the 3 generations in my family all worked in hospitals. And I broke that tradition. Like, I did not want to work in a hospital. I even had, like, when I was younger, I don't want to jump all over the place, but I had a near-death experience as a child as well, and I spent a long time in the hospital recovering and all that. I was born with a birth defect in my kidneys, and I was told that I was like the youngest person to ever have this surgery and recover and make it through. So that was around 4 years old, and that was it's like a kidney reflux. So my kidneys were backing up toxins into my body, and then the other kidney was shrunken. So I had to, you know, I went through a bunch of problems because of that when I was little. But once I started school, I was fine. Like, I just needed to, like, drink more water than other people, and I wasn't given any preferential treatment because of that at all whatsoever. So, but the point is that I guess I had a very good idea of the value of life and the value of keeping your heart and your innocence pure by blocking out evil. So I never was interested in watching, like, horror movies or things that would scare you, like scary movies. Like, there's, you know, there are, like, certain movies that, like, I'm okay with, but I'll close my eyes or something, or, you know, if I don't want to see that. But I'm at an older age now where it's like, it's not as bad, but because it wouldn't affect me like it did when I was younger. And I just really don't like it. So it's like, but anyways, so yeah, so we really need to protect our children. So I have 3 children, and I would always tell them and protect them from anything. Like, I would block them, like, tell them, don't look, there's a car accident, don't look at it. And I would make sure that they don't look at it. And I would tell them, you know, like, I don't want those images or whatever to stay in your mind, that, you know, you don't want to be haunted by images like that. And of course, like, if they wanted to look or whatever, I couldn't force them not to. So maybe on their life path, if they're a doctor or something like that, if that was their life path, then they would be curious and they would look. But I tried to shield them as much as I could from my own experience. And I really believe that, you know, we as parents, any parents out there, all parents out there, we need to protect our children. We need to protect them from negativity, things that are wrong, things that aren't suitable for their ears at a young age. Like, we need to preserve their innocence as long as we can and protect their pure heart. We don't know their life path. We don't know whether they can handle things that maybe as a child you could handle, your parents swearing all the time, drinking all the time, hitting each other, like whatever negative things, or a car accident, like blood and tragedies. Like, maybe certain kids can handle it better than others, but I don't think children should be, around stuff like that. Like, if something bad happened, like, think of your child, think of how they feel. Any child, even if it's not your own child, like, as an adult, like, be aware of the children. Protect our children. The children are our future. The children need to have proper guidance from us adults. They need to, think positively. Don't, like, be negative around your children and stifle their dreams and their spirit. Like, a child's spirit is so amazing and beautiful, and it's from God. It's not corrupted by, the evils of the world. So we need to, as adults, when we have children, we need to learn from our children and get back that innocence from them. Learn to laugh, learn to not take things so seriously, learn to appreciate little things that they do. That's why we're given children. Thank you, God. That's why we're given children. It's like a rebirth for ourselves to become more childlike again and to live out our dreams and inspire our children to go after their dreams, to give them new light, because we have a new perspective as adults that we can pass on to our next generation. And it's so important to believe in our children and love them and point out their good characteristics, to let them know who they are, why they are special. Because as a child, they don't know what their special things are about them. And it's up to us to let them know, whether they're kind-hearted, whether they're very studious, whether they're just good at some type of thing like a sport, or that they have really good handwriting or whatever it is. Like, they don't know that. They have a very small little bubble in their life, and their parents are so important to them, and their teachers and the students around them. But if a lot of teachers nowadays are not singling out kids, of course this is not, recommended, or I don't know whether it should be recommended or not, but I've noticed that when I was in school, I think kids would get recognized sometimes for doing a good job and others wouldn't. Like, I just thought of this thing where I did an art project. It was my first oil painting, my first painting ever, actually. And it was an oil painting. It was monochromatic, using one color and then black and white. And you had to do a grid design, and you used like a photograph, and the photograph's small, but the canvas is large. So you're using that grid and you're filling in you have a grid on your picture and you have a grid on your canvas. So you're kind of matching that image to the canvas. So that was my first ever painting. Now, I recall the teacher having his teacher pets, his favorites in the class. And he would go around and he would tell them how great of a job that they were doing and how that was so wonderful. And he loved the colors that, or whatever he was, you know, the shading, whatever. He just was giving everybody so many compliments. And I remember him not giving me any compliments. And when he would say stuff, it was a negative tone of voice. I was very sensitive to, I'm very intuitive and I'm very sensitive to different things, like even their breath, their tone, their emotion. Like I could feel it. I feel very strongly when people are talking or even approaching me. Like I could feel negativity or the aura or positivity. And it feels like to me, it feels like everybody should know that, but I'm not sure if everybody does. I'm not sure if everybody's in tune to that. I don't think that they're like letting themselves be aware. I don't think they're not concentrating on stuff like that. And that just seems to be a trait of mine where that's the first place I go. I'm not looking at their shirt color or their pimple on their face or whatever. I don't know, but sometimes I've learned that some other people, like my daughter, she would look at stuff like that, like physical features, like what color hair they have, what kind, you know, are they wearing glasses, what color shirt, was it a collared shirt, what was their, she looks at things differently than my mind. And I learned that I have 3 children. So I learned, you know, and even, you know, my ex-husband, like I learned that we don't think alike. Not all of us think alike. And that's a concept that was shocking to me, like that I felt like I knew this person, like my husband, but then we didn't know each other. We didn't think alike. So it was just like, that's how the marriage broke up. But, so we see things differently, and teachers would, the teacher didn't like my artwork, right? So I didn't really finish it because I was very like, detail oriented and like wanting to make things perfect when I was doing it. And I wasn't looking at anybody else. I didn't even know what anybody else was doing. I was purely focused on my work. And then the feedback that I was getting from the teacher, and nobody else was saying anything about my painting that I recall, like nothing good. And maybe laughing, I don't even know, or making comments that didn't sound like it was very good, or if it was, I just didn't listen because the teacher didn't like it, maybe. But the fact is that I wasn't even going to turn it into the art show. There was like a district art show at our high school, in our high school district, and I wasn't even going to turn it in. But I asked the teacher, I said, well, I'm not even finished. I didn't finish this last like grid at the bottom right. And I didn't finish doing the detail work on it. And I remember him saying that an artist's work is never done. And he was kind of saying it to like a lot of people in the class, or, you know, actually most people had left, and it was like the final day to turn in to the art show. And there was only like a few stragglers left, and I was one of them, and I was trying to clean up and stuff. And I was like, I don't even know if I should turn this in because I don't think it's done. And then he just kind of blurted it out to the rest of the people that were out there, not specifically to me. And then he said, you know, just turn them in if you just, you know, what's the harm? And so I just wrote my name on it real quick and turned it in. long story short, that it won for best oil painting, best monochromatic oil painting, best painting of all the paintings. And this is from every high school. And these were all different mediums of art. So there was ceramics. I don't even know what all the, I wasn't even like, I don't really remember like what all the types of art that were there, but there was a lot of different mediums that were artistic. So I also won the best of the entire show. And my mother was there and my sister, and they were in shock. I was in shock. And I just remember my mom like laughing like it was a joke. And that's the kind of like reaction that I would get from anything good that I would ever do. It was like, oh, that's weird. That's like weird. Like, I can't believe that happened. It was like a big laugh. And it was so like, and then it was so rude actually, like thinking back on it, like a lot of the times when I would do such, looking back on it from an adult perspective on my childhood, I wouldn't have treated my children like that. Like, I know better as an adult. Like, I know how important those reactions are to your child to teach them who they are as a person. So it stifled me. Those reactions stifled my growth because I felt like I wasn't special. Even though I just won this award and everybody was clapping, and there was 3 judges, and I even won a woman's award for there was a special like female award to the best, I don't know, the best girl project, I guess. And it was so overwhelming to me because I was like, wow, I just did this. And I was so excited for a second. And then the laughing just kind of like brought it down again. And the fact, and then my mom said, well, what grade did you get on it? And then I was like, oh, I think I only got like a C+. And we looked at the back of it and it said a C+ or C-, I can't remember. And there was more laughter, like it was a joke. And so that wasn't the only time that happened. And so it just really like was like confusing to me as a kid. It was like, should I be proud of myself or should I not be proud of myself? Like, I don't understand what's happening. And if my mom's saying that this is weird and it's funny, then that's how I think. So that's what I would always think. Whenever anything special would happen to me, she would be laughing. So I would laugh. And it was like a joke. Or she would put it down and say, oh, you just traced it out. And, you know, because there was other art projects at a younger age where there was different projects, and I did like I was so proud of myself, and I looked at other people and they didn't have something that looked like mine, even though they had the same assignment. And my mom was telling me that it wasn't good, that anybody could do that because it was just this or just that. Like it wasn't authentic because of the way that I did it. Like like it was tracing something, and that's not how it worked. And so I gained a sense of like confusion, and I didn't like, there was multiple things that happened, but I became like not so like fixated on authorities' opinions. That's basically what happened. And so I became more of like a leader than a follower. And I would always use my own imagination, my own creativity, my own perspective on things. I wouldn't copy other people. And the point of all of this is that nowadays, I was an art teacher, an art docent for when my kids were younger, to volunteer for their school, their classrooms. And I noticed that a huge percentage of the kids would copy each other. So if they saw that one kid was doing something like, I don't even know, like putting a blue shirt on the guy, and then all of them would have blue shirts, or maybe like 3 of them didn't. Like, but there was certain elements in this art project that were like you could tell that they were copied, because why would everybody do the same thing? And I'm collecting all the art projects every week, or no, every month. And I did this, I think it was like each month pretty much. And I think I did this for 2 or 3 years, and different kids, there were 2 kids that were in this program. And so it was just like, okay. And then the teachers weren't singling out. I also went back to school and went to get more degrees in like graphic design and multimedia design. And I noticed that nobody was singled out in class. Like, I think, and I was kind of like, I think that's like a rule nowadays, I'm not even sure, but like not to single out any kid and make them like, kind of like what happened to me in my art class. Like, you don't want to make other kids feel less than because you're saying somebody else is like really good. Like, oh wow, that painting is so good and so brilliant. And then the kid, like I was, felt less than because they weren't getting praised like the other kid. So I feel like that's like a thing nowadays. I'm pretty sure that it's kind of like standard now that teachers aren't supposed to like highlight any one kid and make them feel special, or like a group of kids, like a teacher's pet type of thing. I'm sure it does happen, but probably not as much. Like, we weren't aware of that like generations ago. So so the problem with that though is that in school, when kids have a small bubble, they only have their parents and the kids at school and the teacher surrounding them growing up, mainly, and maybe their community, their neighbors, each individual child. They're not aware of their skills. So it's up to us to let them know. And if their teachers aren't like able to let them know, how are they supposed to know? If the students around them are only concerned about themselves, and a lot of them are copycatters, copying, then and they're not really focused on giving compliments to other students, then how are they supposed to know? it's not until they get older and get out into the world that they're gonna know, and then they might not believe it, and it's just like, it's kind of stifling our children. So as a community, as parents, as adults, we need to, recognize and compliment and lift others up, especially children, of their talents. All of our community needs to do that. We need to lift each other up and tell each other, what their talents are when we see something amazing and brilliant, to let them know. I know this is getting long, but there's another thing that popped into my head about a time when my son was playing baseball, and the kind of like the etiquette was, you didn't really I didn't see other parents really complimenting kids that were doing really great. Of course they were rooting them on and stuff, but I don't know if I was doing something wrong or not, but I went and told the parent, wow, your kid is doing amazing, because he was hitting home runs every game. And then his kid was so freaking humble and had such a great positive attitude, where he was had a great sportsmanship and personality, and just it was literally amazing. And so I went to the dad and I told him that. I was like, wow, your son is so great. You must be an amazing parent to him, because he's so humble and has such great sportsmanship, and you could tell that you've really done a great job with him. I don't know if it's, I'm sure he has great talent, but you must have been working really hard with him to to raise such a great young man here. And he was jaw dropped, dumbfounded that I said that to him. And I was kind of confused, because you would think that everybody would tell him that, right? I mean, it's obvious, your son is really great, and nobody told him that. Nobody says that to him. He told me that usually parents come up to him and ask him what coaches coached his son, what does he do to, that they want that person's number, because they think that their son or daughter, if it's softball or whatever, can do the same thing. And he would feel kind of it takes it away from his son's ability as well, and his ability as a parent. So he was just really honored by that I noticed that. And to me it seemed oh, doesn't everybody notice that? I mean, so I know that people think differently, and if you're being selfish and you only care about your kid, and you want to do better than everybody else, like the other parents, they were only concerned about their son and they were in a jealousy type of situation, where they felt oh, if they had that coach, then their son would be the same way. And it's that's really sad that there's this competitiveness like that. It's can we just build people up, and right now in this moment is what matters. And it's not about competition. It's, yeah, if you want to get that number or whatever, but you could say something, you could acknowledge what you're seeing, and say wow, your son is really good and gifted, and you must be a really great teacher to him and coach to him because of his morals and his character and his athletic ability in your family, and you're coaching, you're giving him the right coaches and tools and all that. So it's really great of you. But to just ask for that number and be so rude and like, you know, competitive and jealous spirit about you is not the right way to be. So we need to acknowledge each other for gifts and build up our children and understand that we need to create a safe space in their mind to keep that spirit alive as long as possible, that innocence, that wonder, those dreams, and encourage their dreams, like build them up and let them fly free like a bird out of a nest, you know? And so that is my message. And I know this was a long one today, but hopefully that speaks to somebody out there or everybody out there. And that really to be mindful of treating our children as these precious individuals to teach us, and that we can learn from them, they can learn from us, and it's a cooperative experience that is beautiful and amazing. Thank you. Peace.